server from 17 once again. This is us collecting Animus Stones in my Darksiders 2 Apocalyptic difficulty video walkthrough. We're further in the Toll of Kings, and this is another one of those little vignettes that's going to introduce a fight sequence. This happens every time you get one of these stones. As I've said previously, just spam grab against this enemy. It's the safest way to kill them. I'd completely forgot you could do that, because I didn't really know what B did in this game when I came back to it. And you'll save yourself a lot of life, because these things hurt you for no real reason. They remind me a little bit of the kind of crazy tiny things on Dead Space that come in the swarms and strip your life like wallpaper. Those guys are douchebags. But in the previous video, I was sharing with you my displeasure towards Lollipop Chainsaw, because I think it's a terrible game. And I'm going to go into a couple of reasons why I didn't mention in the last one that I dislike it so severely. So, I've already mentioned that the gameplay is not very fun. I've already mentioned that the game's pretty short, but they pad it out with unskippable vignettes. The ranking mode in it is, suffers from every other ranking mode ailment that every game ever conceived has ever had. And that is, if you're going to put us into a situation where you time us to play your game to go for score, please edit out all the bullshit that we would normally try to skip that we can't skip in the game. I don't understand why nobody's thought to do this. It's probably going to be a pioneering thought when it finally happens, but why are there still cutscenes? Why are there still exposition moments? Why is it not just a linear sequence of gameplay? I don't get it. Why do they leave in the bullshit that has nothing to do with score? And it makes it so frustrating. And on top of that, there is, I don't know if it's a glitch, I don't really know what's happened, but there's an achievement for registering on the world leaderboards on every chapter on the game. And to do this, every achievement guide says, go into ranking mode, play on normal or above, beat the level, and then register and save the score to the leaderboards, which I've done twice. And when I go to the leaderboards, on my records it shows you my scores, on my friends' records it shows you my scores, on the world record it can't find me. And every single thing I've searched on YouTube and Google and all that kind of stuff has said the same thing. Make sure that you're playing in ranking mode. I'm not a giant retard, so I know the difference between story mode and ranking mode, and I know the difference between, pressing save to upload it to a leaderboard and watching the screen tell me it's uploaded it to a leaderboard, and yet the leaderboard has no evidence of me. And it's just a fucking terrible game. It really is. It's just, I hate it. I really do, and I'm sending it back, and I'm never going to go near it again, and, I'm happy. It makes me happy. So, if you're looking forward to Lollipop Chainsaw, do not let my opinion sway you. Check it out, see if you enjoy it, but this gamer thinks it is worse than the fucking plague. Never again. Which leads me on to the second thing that I rented, which is the Medal of Honor Warfighter, and I played this at the expo I went to. Same place I played Devil May Cry before it came to the dashboard. Same place where I played Metal Gear Solid Revengeance before, Zone of the Enders came out. And I played this. And I queued with Lummy for about 40 minutes to play this game. The demo was very short. There's two people in the booth wearing, EA shirts, who I quizzed a little bit to see if they were members of the dev team. Mainly because I was trying to network to try and get a job when I was there. And they weren't. They were just people who were working the door, essentially. They were just students who needed a job, and they got a job of, standing by this booth and administering people in. And when I got in and I played it with Lummy, the sequence was infiltrating this warehouse, shooting a few dudes, going up to this front of this manor, then you did an on-rail section in a helicopter, and I didn't think it seemed too bad. It was generic as can be, but it looked quite nice, it played okay. It was just your generic future shooter that seems to be on every agenda right now. I got the game, started playing it, and I don't know if I was in a bad mood, I don't know what, but it just wasn't fun. Like, I played the first 5 levels in about less than an hour, because I was flying through them, because I wasn't dying. They weren't difficult. I started on hard, which is the hardest difficulty you can start on. They weren't long. In fact, when I looked at Mission Select when I came off of my first session, I was surprised I was halfway through the game, and I'd only been playing it for about an hour and a half. And the first mission that I died on was a driving mission, and the reason I died is because I hit a vendor and I couldn't get past this car that was next to it, and the guy got away and it counted as a death. And the guide I was going to do was on hardcore difficulty. And hardcore is essentially when you die, you go back to the start of the game. But there is a couple of tricks of doing it, and this mission immediately put me off doing the guide. Because, you know, one mistake in a driving section, and driving sections are not exactly my forte, because I hate driving games, and this is a mandatory one in the game, so I continued playing it. It got less fun the further you go in. Like, there's one mission that is literally 4 dusty, sandy missions in a row of nothing but you shooting Asian people, or, you know, that's a bit derogatory, but just a bunch of people in robes is probably a better summation, because for all we know, there could have been Americans with accents, I don't know. But it was completely uninspired. It was literally like watching the Iran war on TV. It's just... who wants to play that? Who wants to play fucking Calendar? I don't get it. It's not fun. It's not interesting. And the guns don't feel good because they've got far too much recoil. Like, when a developer's going to realise nobody wants to play a simulation, everybody wants to have unlimited ammo, everybody wants to have laser rifles, it's like, if you're going to put recoil in your game, make it so much so that there are skill in controlling it. Don't make it that every time you fire, it's as if somebody's punched you in the face. Like, it just doesn't make sense. And the more I played it, the more I realised that this game is short, this game is not fun, this game is not hard, and the guide just seemed like a waste of time, so I didn't end up doing it, and I'm not going to do it. And I started my game on hardcore just to see if it was any more difficult, or just to see if it'd bring anything to my channel, because there were a lot of people saying they were struggling on it, and this is no offence to them, but how? Like, I don't get it. The game is... the hardest part of the game for me is the fucking Splinter Cell Metal Gear Solid section in the car, which came out of nowhere and was completely stupid. It's like, oh, let's evade these vision cones on the Soliton radar in a car. Yeah, this is a good idea. This is what Medal of Honor's been missing. Car stealth. And it's just... who makes these games? I don't understand it. I really don't. Like, somebody's mentioned to me that there's this indie game called Miami Hotline or something like this, which is getting some good reviews, and I watched a review on it, and it made absolutely no sense. It just looked weird, but it looked more fun than this fucking game, and it was probably made with 1/1,000,000th of the budget and the team. And it's... I don't understand. I don't understand at all. I don't understand any of it. And like on hardcore, I died on mission 3 because I did a breach and clear, and because it's so difficult to see enemies during those sequences because it's all slow-mo and fucking dusty, there was literally a pane of blackness in front of me that turned around and shot me, and I didn't realise it was a person, and he killed me. I was like, oh well, that's the end of the any hopes that I was going to do the guide out of, you know, pity for it. And I dashboarded to test a theory. And when I loaded the game back up, it had checkpointed me before the door on hardcore. So, in theory, you can play that entire game every time you die, just dashboard, and you have checkpoints. So the game is no harder than it was on hard. And the hardest part of the game for shooting was the final mission. There's a quite lengthy push where you can die quite easily if you're not careful. So, even the no checkpoint mode is easy. And the only thing stopping me from doing it is the fact that I did not enjoy the game, and I would not wish anybody to play it because it's just not fun. And it's just like, how do these games get made? Because people, everybody, there are millions of people that love to bang on Call of Duty, that love to criticise annualised franchises like Assassin's Creed, like kind of what Battlefield's starting to do to compete with Activision, even though they don't need to, they should just focus on making a good game. But they shit on these games because there's nothing new, because it's the same as last year. But the one thing even they can't, you know, deny is that these games are infinitely playable. These games are fun. That's why people play them. And the Medal of Honor comes along and tries to make this gritty, realistic, you know, Iraq story like something from Hurt Locker, and just fails on every fundamental level. And then they make a sequel to it to try and, you know, fix the problems in the first game, and I actually think the first game is a better game, and I thought the first game was a pile of shit. And it's kind of like Force Unleashed syndrome. How the hell do you have a bigger budget, I assume a bigger team, and make a worse game? I don't get it. And it's really, really strange. It really is. because there are so many good games that are coming out nowadays, but there are also so many games that are having so much money spent on them that come out and prove to be, you know, just dire pieces of dog shit. And the one cool thing about playing these two games after I went back to this is it made me appreciate Darksiders 2 a lot more, because I am extremely harsh on this game because I wanted something perfect. I wanted something extremely ambitious and brilliant, and I got something really ambitious, but it kind of faltered before the finish line for me. So I believe this to be a good game, but a game that is flawed in ways that could have been significantly better. A lot of people think this is a fantastic game, which is awesome, but I don't. And after playing fucking Lollipop dog shit and Medal of just direness, this game feels terrific. This game felt like a joy to play, and it brings me to the interesting, you know, philosophical discussion of, are these games a necessity? Is the fact that they are bad good because they help us appreciate things we might not have appreciated? And to draw this into an interesting tangent of what I've been doing while recording these games is watching pretty much every episode of QI. There was on the jokes episode, they were on about the cracker gags, and the jokes in a cracker are generally terrible, but they're so terrible that they unify people against the joke, because comedy essentially is very divisive. It's one of those things where you'll say something in a crowd of people, there'll be a select few people that think it's funny, and there'll be a handful of people that don't, and vice versa. So that is quite divisory. But by attacking the joke itself, because it's bad, and the obligatory cringe that everybody does, you're unifying the room. And, you know, I suppose psychologically it's a very important part of humour. Which is probably why, you know, comedians really lay into hecklers, because then it's everybody laughing at a single person's expense, and then afterwards they'll probably do something to unify everything and realise that it's all just, you know, a bit of fun. But is that what bad games are to gaming? Are they the thing that make us appreciate that which we take for granted because it could have been so much worse? I don't really know, but I can definitely say this for sure. Those two games, played back to back and at the length that I played them to try and get some achievements on them, because, you know, I like to send games back after I've at least tried to experience a lot of it, are enough to put me off gaming for life. Like, you know, if I gave them to somebody and they had the same response that I did to them, they would probably never touch another game, because they were just horrible. Really horrible. And the third game I've got, if anybody's wondering, to, you know, come full circle, is Dark Souls. Because, believe it or not, I do not own Dark Souls for the Xbox. And that's going to change, because I'm getting it for Christmas, I believe. But I only own it for PC, and I've had it since I first played it, which was June or July. I think it was July. And I've had that disc from this rental service that long. So, sorry, Love Film, but Dark Souls is an awesome game, and worth 1,000,000 fucking Medal of Honors and Chainsaw Lollipops combined. And to my horror, yesterday I entertained Aiden at my house. It's the first time I'd seen him for a while. We played some games, we had a joke, and here's an interesting notion for you guys, which we'll probably discuss in a podcast that will happen in about 10 years. For those who don't know, Aiden is as big of a Hitman fan as me. I would almost go as far to say that Aiden was better at Hitman than me, because I had it on the PC, and I also had Contracts and 2 for the PlayStation 2, but I was never that good at Contracts, because Hitman is a puzzle, and it's a puzzle that I just never really understood, and Aiden understood it before I did, and he got really good at Contracts, and that obviously transferred to Blood Money, and I got really good at Blood Money, so I kind of evened it out there. But he did not like Absolution, and he didn't like it so much that the day he played it, he returned it. And the reason why, he said to me, is he plays Hitman games to play Hitman, not Splinter Cell. And the fact that they'd made these missions where you're being hunted and you have to evade and there's no targets offended him so much he took it back, because he wasn't having any fun. And I thought that was astounding, mainly because he's such a big Hitman fan. And I do believe that he's missing out on the game because he's done that, but he's probably going to rent it and play it anyway. But at the same time, I know exactly how he feels, because it's the exact same way I felt when I was playing it. And I do think, if it wasn't for YouTube, I might not have persevered. because starting Hitman Absolution on the harder difficulties with a prior knowledge of Hitman is very heartbreaking. And I just found that really, really interesting. I really did. But back to the topic, because once again, I'm digressing like a motherfucker. Apparently there's been a Lollipop Chainsaw 2 announced. And right now I would, if I was, you know, if it wasn't for the fact there are 20 odd more of these videos I need to talk over, I would go and get a picture of the professor from Futurama, and I would literally put, I do not want to live on this planet anymore. Because whoever the people are who are funding that pile of shit are everything that is wrong with gaming. The fact that that game gets a sequel is everything that is wrong with gaming. But don't get me wrong, at the same time, it might be the best sequel ever. It might be utter redemption. It might be the best game ever made. But it will not take the bitter taste of that first game out of my mouth, because, you know, that is a shit fetish gone wrong. Just such a bad game. But some of the things that are on my list, for anybody wondering, because a lot of people have been asking for a Spec Ops guide. If I'm completely honest, guys, it's on my list, but I've not played the full game yet, and when I played the demo, I was really disappointed with it. I was excited for Spec Ops. I was watching it for ages. I even got invited to the beta because I was that interested in the game, and the beta was a little bit weak because it was nothing real special and it had problems, but I was still stoked for the game because I thought the setup was great, I thought the idea was great, and it looked great. But when I played it, I found the shooting very unsatisfying. So I'm hoping when I get the game, I'll be able to put up with it, because it does look like a good game. It looks like an interesting game, and apparently full bar difficulty is insane. And the one thing about making guides is every so often you have to do a guy, you have to do a man, you have to become a homosexual for an evening. No, you have to do a game that perhaps you wouldn't normally want to cover. And I accept that because I try and be as professional as I can towards these projects, as I call them. And even if I don't like it, it might be worth doing, because difficult games are hard to come across in this day and age, and the difficult ones are the ones that get the views, which makes a lot of sense, but at the same time it would be nice to just get the views on merit alone. But thanks for watching anyhow, and if you're new and you've subscribed, thank you. It's always good to have new faces, new opinions, new people enjoying the content, and you take care now.